Hey guys, welcome to Gaming Unplugged, where we cut the cable and we hit the table. We're talking about board games. I love board games, man. I just love them. The past 2 years, I have pretty much just said goodbye to video games, and I've been hitting tabletop games like they are going out of style. I've been so obsessed with board games for the past couple years that I'm pretty sure if I bring one more game home, my wife's going to divorce me.
You bought another board game, Max? What about your daughter's piano lessons?
Let me some board games! How many of you guys feel like you spend a little too much time in front of a screen? I know I do. I've got my phone, I've got a laptop, I've got a desktop computer, I've got 2 TVs in my house. I mean, by the end of the day, if you include work and leisure time, you're probably spending over half of your waking hours in front of a screen, and that is why I love board games. Board games gets you away from the screens, away from technology, and gets you into a more tactile sense of feeling paper and little pieces and meeples and fake money and all this fun stuff. And most of all, board games brings people together in person. There's nothing better than looking across the table at your best friend and just talking crap to him while you're playing a game. And you get to just look each other in the eyes, you can smile, you can give a high five. You can't give a high five through a headset on Xbox Live. It brings people together in the same room, which is a completely different interaction than a digital interaction, as we all know. In this channel, we'll be exploring everything from board game reviews, tutorials, teaching how to play, and hopefully trying to get new people into the hobby while also being a resource for people who are already in the hobby to get other perspectives about games, because I know when we're all out there and there's so many games that you can possibly buy, you really need to narrow it down. And so for all of these awesome content creators, Board Game Geek, Dice Tower, those guys, they do a great job helping us kind of sift through all the games that are out there, because not very many people could afford just to buy all the games. So I'm going to be giving back to the community by doing my own videos and trying to share my perspective with everyone, and that is just my opinion. And everything that you'll see is just my opinion, my personal opinions of games. You might have a different opinion, which is totally awesome. You can talk about it in the comments below, and we can have a discussion about it. Today we're going to take a look at one of my favorite games right now, but I have to give credit where credit's due. Tom Vassell from the Dice Tower, this is his #1 game. And it was because of him and his review that inspired me to go pick up the game for myself, and man was he right. And what game is that? Some of you guys probably already know. Cosmic Encounter. What's so great about Cosmic Encounter? A lot. One of the things I love the most is how many alien races there are inside the game for you to play as, each one with their own unique power that breaks the rules in some way. Right out of the box, the base game has 50 different aliens, and if you think about the different combinations of those aliens in any given game, every game is different. The dynamic is completely different. You might have a guy that has twice as many ships that he starts out with in one game, or you have another character that can literally eat one of your planets and just consume it. I mean, just crazy stuff. Or have a foreign colony inside the warp, which is usually the graveyard for ships. I mean, the antimatter character where the lowest attack score wins the round. I mean, what the heck, I mean, there's so much stuff in the game and so many crazy little powers that it literally blows your mind. So basically what you're trying to do in the game, each person has a home system of a certain color with 4 ships on each of the 5 planets that make up their system. And basically you're going to be taking turns encountering other players in an attempt to colonize their planets and increase your score on the tracker here. The goal of the game is to be the first player to get 5 foreign colonies, and that's about it as far as victory conditions, unless you have a special alien power that has a completely separate victory condition, which those do exist. So basically what would happen, let's say it's yellow player is first. The first thing a player has an option to do is regroup and grab a ship that's been killed that's in the warp here, but when you first start the game, you shouldn't have any ships there. So the next thing you'll do, you'll draw the card from the Destiny deck, which tells you who you're going to be attacking. In this case, yellow will be attacking red, as you can see here. So what he can do is he can dedicate 1 to 4 ships from any of his colonies to enter the warp gate here, or I believe it's the hyperspace gate, and attack any of the planets. And because they all have the same amount of defenses on them, it doesn't matter. So let's just say he'll attack this one. And he'll dedicate 4 ships, spreading them out across the different colonies so he doesn't completely leave one of his planets undefended. And he'll be there. So now you essentially have 4 versus 4 fight there. It's a pretty even fight. And then what will happen is then the players, starting with the attacking player, get to ask other players to be allies. Hey, Scary Gary, you want to be my ally? We can get ourselves another colony. No! Fine, whatever. And so let's say blue accepts. Blue can dedicate 1 to 4 ships to the fight. Let's say you put 2 in there. And because we're only a 3-player round and you can't ally with both the attackers and the defenders, we'll just leave it at that. Players will have a starting hand of 8 cards. And there will be different attack cards, negotiation cards, reinforcement cards, artifacts, and flare cards that can do different varying things. And once you have your allies set, it's time for the planning phase, in which the attacking player and the defending player get to select a card from their hand to play. Let's say red picks that card, and yellow picks this card. They'll place them face down in front of themselves, and then they will reveal. In this case, red played a 4 attack. You add the total of the attack card to the ships, which is 4 plus 4 is an attack of 8. Yellow played a 7, which you just add the values again there plus the allied ships, so that's 6 plus 7. You have 13, so yellow would win that encounter. Red loses his ships, they die, they go to the warp, and now yellow and blue get to colonize that planet and move up the victory tracker. Also, if you have an ally, you have reinforcement cards, which allows the allies to jump in after the reveal to add a couple extra points to the attacking score to hopefully turn the tide there. Negotiate cards, these are fun. If, let's say, for example, we'll back this up, and we will say, let's say red doesn't think they're going to make it, and red plays a negotiate card, and we play the 7 like we had. Well, because the defender played the negotiate card, and he played attacking card, he'll still lose the encounter, but he gets to take compensation. And compensation would be cards from the attacker's hand equal to the amount of ships that he lost to the warp. So that's another way to get cards. If, let's say, for example, the blue decided to help defend red, and we'll go back to the original, we'll go there, and he played that, so we'd have 6, 13 there, and then only 8 here, then red would win, and blue would get to get cards from the deck. He could take 2 new cards, or he could take ships from the warp equal to the amount of ships he dedicated. He doesn't get to colonize, but hey, he gets some new cards. And of course, yellow would lose his ships. So basically, the game is essentially you're trying to attack other players' planets and colonize them to move up the score tracker. And in doing so, you'll be playing all kinds of cards from your hand, attack cards, you got special ability cards, artifact cards, flare cards, which give you special abilities, and your alien powers. And of course, most importantly, is getting allies of other players to join you in the fight. The basic mechanics of the game are interesting enough. It's really fun to try to conquer other people's planets and get allies and do all the negotiating. But what really makes the game stand out are the aliens. I mean, there's so many different aliens right now. I mean, like I said before, there's almost 200 aliens with all the expansions. So, I mean, some of these powers, I mean, think about it, like, you know, how they change the game. The zombie, for example. The zombie has the power of immortality, which means whenever you would lose the combat and your ships would go to the warp, they don't. You get to keep them. They never die. You'll never die with this character. You've got the mutant with the power regenerate, which means whenever you have fewer than 8 cards in your hand, you can just refill your hand at any time. Otherwise, you have to win as an ally and a defender, or do a negotiate and take cards from other players. This guy, you always get to have your cards. The barbarian. This guy can destroy another player's hands. So you can just start to imagine all the different powers that you can have. Between the individual alien powers, the flare cards, the artifact cards, I mean, there's so many different powers that can be activated throughout the game in different phases of the game that it just, I mean, you just never know what to expect. Another thing I love about the game is it has almost like a fun poker aspect to the hand management and when you're engaging in an encounter. You have to play an encounter card against their encounter card, and you're hoping that they don't beat out your card and you lose the encounter, so you're always just kind of wondering what kind of card they're going to play. Is it going to be a negotiate, a really high attack card, a morph card? And so it just kind of, it gives you that kind of reading the other players kind of vibe to the game like poker does, and I love that part. I know what you're up to, Slarnak. Oh, and I love the zaps. There's nothing better than having someone play a card that negates a negotiation, and then another player plays a card that zaps that card, undoes his card's effect. I mean, there's so much of that going on in the game that it's just really exciting, and it gives you those moments of just, you just want to just reach across the table and punch your best friend in the face, but you wouldn't because you're playing a game. What? A card zap! Ah! So do I recommend Cosmic Encounter? Duh. I mean, this game is amazing. Just go out and buy it immediately. Buy 3 copies of it and give them to friends. I mean, this is such a rad game, and I just don't see it getting old anytime soon because of the variety. I mean, I keep playing games, and we'll play like multiple games in a row, and the game that you played next down the line, right after the other one, is completely different. It is completely different. I love this game. I just, thank you, Tom Vassell from Dice Tower, for suggesting this game because, oh my God, I love it. I love board games.